explorers, it's Justin again. Me and I finally made it back from our spaceship trip. On our way home with an amazing view of our world's growing population, I couldn't help but wonder, is there a way to tell if certain populations are growing faster than others? Turns out there is. Demographers have a special tool to make predictions about a population's future, the population pyramid. In this lesson, we'll use the population pyramids of two countries, Japan and Nigeria, to make predictions about their population's futures and help their governments prepare for these changes. Both have huge populations, but believe it or not, one of these populations will likely grow in the future and the other will likely shrink. How do we read Japan's and Nigeria's population pyramids? How will Japan and Nigeria be impacted by their population changes? And what can their governments do to respond to these changes? Sounds like a job for a demographer in training. Ready, explorers? Let's get into it. Demographers use population pyramids as a tool to analyze the demographic trends of a country. Do you remember any demographic groups from our electoral geography lesson? Categories like ethnicity and income help demographers group similar people together in a population to find patterns. What demographics do you think we'll use in a population pyramid? Look at this example and predict in your notes. In a population pyramid, we use age and sex to take a snapshot of a country's demographics. Here's how to read one step by step. A population pyramid has an x-axis and a y-axis, just like graphs in your math class. The x-axis represents population sizes for males on the left side and females on the right. The longer the bars extending from the center, the larger the group's population. The y-axis represents age groups in a population. The youngest people are at the bottom of the graph, and the oldest people are at the top. Together, these two axes give us a bird's eye view of a population. We can see how big male and female populations are at every age group. Take a look at Nigeria's population pyramid. Does Nigeria's population have more younger people or older people? Nigeria's population pyramid has a wider base at the bottom, which means its population has a lot of babies. Countries like Nigeria that have triangle-shaped population pyramids have a high birth rate, or the rate at which babies are born in a population. Now compare Nigeria's pyramid to Japan's. What do you notice about Japan's birth rate? Japan's base is much skinnier than Nigeria's, so its birth rate is much lower. But check out the top of these pyramids. Japan's top is much taller and wider than Nigeria's. What might this tell us about Japan's population? Japan's elderly population is much bigger than Nigeria's, meaning Japan has a higher life expectancy, or average lifespan of a person in a population. We can use these population pyramids to predict Japan's and Nigeria's future demographic trends. One of these populations will likely grow, while the other will likely shrink. Which one is which? Explain how you know. Check out how Nigeria's population pyramid is expected to change 10 and 20 years from now. Because of its bottom-heavy shape, all of these young people at the base of Nigeria's pyramid grow up, start their own families, and contribute to a growing population. Now look at Japan's population pyramids in 10 and 20 years. Japan's top-heavy pyramid shows us that a lot of its population is elderly and past their reproductive years. As time goes on, there will probably be fewer people having children, meaning lower birth rates and a shrinking population. But what about a population pyramid that has an even shape from base to top, like the United States? What might the US's population look like in 10 and 20 years? Countries with box-shaped pyramids like the US's have stable populations. They might change slightly, but not nearly as fast as a population like Japan or Nigeria's. Now that we have a sense of where Japan and Nigeria's populations are headed, how do you think these changes will impact these countries? Predicting a population's growth or decline isn't just a fun party trick, it's valuable information for governments to plan for the future. Consider Nigeria's rapidly growing population. It won't be long before that large group of babies at the base of the pyramid get older and enter the education system. How might a large influx of young people impact Nigeria's economy? More working age people means more people in the workforce, increasing economic production, which is a good thing. But if Nigeria's economy can't keep up with its population growth, the country may be underemployed, meaning there aren't enough jobs to go around. Nigeria may run into infrastructure problems too. Remember overpopulation from the last lesson? What might happen if essential services like healthcare, education, and transportation can't keep up with the growing population? If Nigeria's young population is growing too fast for its infrastructure to handle, then issues like traffic congestion and long wait times will make it harder for young people to access the resources they typically need. Japan, meanwhile, might face opposite challenges with its population pyramid. How might Japan's aging population impact its economy and infrastructure? More elderly people and low birth rates means fewer working age people in Japan's economy, which could lead to labor shortages. And as Japan's population ages, its healthcare infrastructure may be overburdened as it's stretched thin to serve more elderly people. But Japan's population decline isn't all bad. A shrinking workforce means Japan has to innovate to develop technology that can take the place of human labor, which is why it's a global leader in robotics and automation. It could be overwhelming for governments to be ready for all these demographic changes. The population pyramids give these countries time to plan solutions. So, what can Japan and Nigeria's governments do to prepare? We as demographers can help with that. Imagine Nigeria's and Japan's governments came to you, a demographer in training, for advice on preparing for their demographic changes. What would you say? It's a big task, I know, don't worry. In your notes, there are some options for you to choose from. Try organizing them into actions Nigeria's government should take to accommodate its young, growing population, and actions Japan's government should take for its older, shrinking population. Both governments might want to invest in their healthcare programs, but for different reasons. Japan needs resources for its growing elderly population, while Nigeria's healthcare system needs to handle a large influx of young families. For Nigeria's young, rapidly growing population, it makes sense to expand infrastructure that young people need, like affordable housing. And to make sure there are enough jobs for everyone, Nigeria's government could also work on expanding its economy, so young people can find jobs in sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and technology. Japan's government, on the other hand, might consider policies to increase its population of young people to support its shrinking workforce. For example, the government might want to offer incentives to make having kids more attractive, like paying families for childcare services so young adults can have kids and still work. Japan's government could also adjust immigration policies to encourage young migrants to move there. These migrants could support Japan's aging population and economy by providing a much-needed boost to its labor force. Thanks to population pyramids, these governments get a heads up for demographic trends in their populations and what they need to do to accommodate those changes. Thanks for your help today, explorers. Just like we did with Japan's and Nigeria's populations today, we can use population pyramids to study the demographic trends of any population in the world. And get this, demographers that do this work have noticed something interesting. Population change tends to follow the same pattern for countries all over the world. Populations tend to start by rapidly growing, like in Nigeria. But after industrialization and expanding urban areas, populations begin to slow down and even decline, like in Japan. Why do populations follow this pattern? We'll find out in our next episode when we learn about the demographic transition model. Until then, explorers, see you next time.